Welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast, a podcast for everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. Every week, I am joined by successful guests in all different industries and stages of business who will share what their experience was like transitioning from employee to boss. Expect action steps, inspiration, and hot topics. This is a resource for you if you're wanting to start a business, go all in on your side hustle, get to the next level in your thriving business, or just hear what it's like taking the leap to becoming your own boss. Business can be very lonely, but it does not have to be. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast production agency specializing in editing, marketing, and strategy. Let's dive into today's topic. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Employee to Boss podcast. As you know, I am the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, and coffee is a big part of my life. Not only do I love drinking it, but it's also my brand colors, and it's actually the power behind everything that I do here at Espresso Podcast Production. If you're one of my clients or we've ever been on a call together, just know that coffee is what truly gets me through everything that I do. It keeps me excited. It keeps me motivated. It's the power behind the brand. And so today I am speaking with a fellow coffee lover, Ellie Hugdahl. We met at CEO Society, which is a networking event here in Seattle, in December, and we've just been chatting ever since. So Ellie is the owner of Unity Coffee Company, which is a coffee stand. She has 2 locations and many employees. And she's also an online business coach for business owners wanting to improve their marketing, mindset, and money. As you'll hear in this episode, Ellie is a multi-passionate entrepreneur, and she really knows how to build a strong presence. She has lots of followers on TikTok, over 10,000, but she also just knows how to manage multiple different business ventures under one brand. So that's what today's episode is all about, mastering multiple business ventures, including owning a coffee shop, coaching, TikTok fame, and print on demand. In this episode, you'll hear about Ellie's journey of how she actually used to work at this coffee stand when she was 15 years old and years later ended up buying it. We talk about the systems that she uses to be able to actually remove herself from her businesses. So she makes it run so well that she doesn't even need to be there. And we also talk about the importance of actually taking action rather than continuing learning. This is a loop that a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in. They just keep learning, and never taking action. Check out the show notes to see where you can connect with Ellie, either on TikTok or Instagram. You can also check out her coffee shop if you're here in Washington. And she also has a wait list for her membership, so be sure you check that out as well. All right, let's dive into this episode. Hey, Ellie, thank you so much for joining me on the Employee to Boss podcast. I am excited to chat with you today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so we met at a networking event here in Seattle months and months ago, I think probably in December. You have so many different parts to your business. You have a strong TikTok presence. I feel like you're always doing new things. You have a coffee shop, 2 of them, which my brand is Espresso Podcast Production, so I just love that in itself. So I'm excited to see where this conversation will take us. But if you wanted to start off by introducing yourself and telling us who you are, I would love to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I like to call myself a multi-passionate entrepreneur because I do have a lot of different aspects to my business. Everything does kind of merge together, though. So I do post a lot of business coaching and tips and tricks for entrepreneurs on my social media presence. So my TikTok, my Instagram, I really try to speak to CEOs and entrepreneurs. And then I also do own 2 coffee stands here in the Pacific Northwest. So one in Kirkland, Washington, and one in Everett. And I have a full team, so they pretty much run everything with the systems that I have in place there.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
how did you get started with all of this? I think we're about the same age, so
Yeah.
people think of us as like young entrepreneurs, but tell us
Right.
about your journey from employee to boss. What'd that look like?
Absolutely. So I've always known that I've wanted to be an entrepreneur. Since I was very young, I would go like door to door and sell dog treats to my neighbors for $1. So I've always had that like entrepreneur spirit in me. I just didn't really know where it was going to lead me or take me. When I was 15, I was working at a coffee stand in Everett, and I just fell in love with that community. I fell in love with serving people, with brightening people's day, and I knew that that was something that I really wanted to pursue. So I went to school for business. Long story short, when I moved back to Washington, I actually bought the stand that I was working at when I was 15. So that's how I started in the coffee industry business. And then I've been able to scale since then.
Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah.
like full circle moment. That's
Full circle. I
crazy.
know it was crazy to go back there after like 10 years. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Full circle.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
now you run this, and like you said, you have those systems in place where you don't have to be there every day. You have a team, you manage multiple people. How did
Mhm.
you learn all of this? And you also give tips to entrepreneurs. Like, what does your background look like?
I did go to school for business management. I will say I didn't learn as much as just throwing myself in and being fully immersed in the
Mhm.
business world. I've had some online businesses where I really learned systems and like organization, the back end of things. But for the most part, I honestly didn't know what I was doing when I bought my stand. Like I just learned as I went. I didn't know how to run a team. I didn't know accounting. I didn't know, HR or health permits or any of that stuff, but you just learn as you go. And so I'm still learning every single day.
Yeah. So, what were some of the steps that you took to learn that? Because that's definitely a leap of faith.
Yeah, definitely. I made sure that I was in groups with people who were doing similar things or who were really inspiring or just even just supportive of my journey. So make sure to get into those rooms with people who understand what you're going through and that can support you through that. I also just researched a ton. So I listened to podcasts, YouTube videos every single day. Like I just was a sponge to information.
Yeah, that's great
Yeah.
because I think when people, and it's definitely finding the right rooms and the right resources and the right podcasts, right? Because
Mhm.
not everything, I think a lot of people can get into the phase where they continue to learn and never take action. So I like
Yes.
how you did it the opposite way. You took action and then you were like, oh, yeah, let me actually figure
What am
out.
I doing? Maybe I should
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. What were some of the most influential resources?
Podcasts for sure, because I could just put it in at like the gym or I could go on a walk. So podcasts for sure. I love like Ed Milet. He's really good for mindset. And then there's also a lot of other business ones, depending on what industry you're in. I would look at like your industry specific podcasts and listen to those ones
Yeah,
from people who have already done the thing that you're trying to do.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from other podcasts, and
Oh,
I've
yeah.
started using it almost like a search engine on like
Mhm.
Apple Podcasts or Spotify if I want to hear like I've been running a lot recently. I'm running a half marathon soon. And so I've
Awesome.
been looking up like nutrition for a half
Yeah.
marathon, like all these different things. And I've been finding the coolest podcasts, the coolest interviews, and I think it's a resource that a lot of more people should use. That's why I
Mhm.
love, I mean, I could talk about podcasting all
No,
day.
I agree. I rarely even listen to music anymore. It's like all podcasts right when I
Yeah.
wake up. Yeah.
No, I love learning, so I'm in the same boat as you on
Yeah.
that. That's awesome.
Mhm.
And another way that you've been growing your business has been TikTok. And TikTok, I think, is something that a lot of people try and don't see results on. They get stuck in that 200 view jail or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
you are really consistent with it and you have a large following. So, how did you get started with that? And what was your plan when you got started?
I knew that I wanted to help coach other people who were just starting their businesses, give them tips, like things that I wanted to hear when I was first starting, even like the mindset aspect or how to put in systems or different tools I was using. I knew that I wanted to be a resource for those new entrepreneurs. So I just tried to think of things that would be really valuable and helpful for those new entrepreneurs. And I posted consistently, probably twice a day in those first 6 months that I was starting. I was like twice a day, every single day. Now it's probably about 5 times a week, so it's still pretty consistent.
Mhm.
But in those beginning months when you're just starting, you got to show the algorithm that you're showing up consistently. And then when you see the videos that are working, you can kind of work off of those videos. Like
Yeah.
people like this subject, just build more of that. Don't post stuff just to post stuff.
I think that's what a lot of people do, post to
Yeah.
post, and then they're
Yeah.
like, "Why is no one listening? Why
Yeah.
is
Well, they
there's
post
no
stuff that
plan?"
they want to hear, but it's like nobody cares about that.
Exactly. What was the first time that you had, a viral TikTok or a lot of views on a TikTok? What was that all about?
It was when I was selling print on demand, so that was my first business. I was selling on Etsy, and it was basically just like me sharing like my success story of like this is what I did, this is how long it took, and then these are the sales that I got from that. And it was like a 10-second inspirational video. It was just like a trending audio over the top, and I think it's at like 700,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I know it's like always the simple thing, but
Yeah, I barely spent any time on that.
yeah, but print on demand, is that something that you still do in your business?
It is. I use that business model now for Unity Coffee. So we
Mhm.
sell like mugs, t-shirts, crew necks and stuff on our website, and it's all print on demand. So that's like a drop shipping model.
Okay. How'd you get started with learning that?
So during 2020, I was working as a personal trainer actually, and I broke my leg. So I was completely out of work. I couldn't walk for 2 months, I think. I was just in a boot and I had to pay rent. So I was like, I better figure something else out, but I'm only online. And I stumbled across print on demand, and that was, yeah, middle of 2020. I just found some like YouTube videos of people doing it, and I just learned everything I could possibly learn. And I built a pretty successful print on demand store through Etsy.
Okay. And I know you've posted recently that you left Etsy
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
are now on, is it Shopify?
It's Shopify. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I love how you have these ideas and then you just go for it and learn after. I mean, that's something that you're talking about a lot. And
Yeah.
have you always been like that in different parts of life, or is that really like your business mindset?
I think that's really I mean, for me, I love to take chances and I love to take risks. And I think that's what's made it so fun is to just put yourself out there and figure it out. I love doing that. When I'm comfortable and when I know what I'm doing, I don't like that's not fun for me. I want to be uncomfortable and I want to be growing.
Mm,
So putting myself out there, taking risks, I love doing that. I don't like being in like a comfy spot.
yeah,
Yeah.
I totally love that. And I think more people need to hear stories like this because when I hear a lot of people who come to me to start a podcast and they're so nervous about what people are going to
Mhm.
think. I had someone ask me, like, podcasting is so high risk. And I was like, what are the risks around it? And the risk that she was talking about was judgment. And I was
Okay.
like, okay, I get it. Like, it is
Mhm.
hard to be judged for the things that we're doing, but if you don't do it, it's never going to work out. And so,
Exactly.
what steps do you take or what advice do you have for anyone who is, holding themselves back?
Yeah, I mean, I think regarding the judgment piece, that was definitely a huge thing for me because my Instagram and my TikTok, they're my personal ones. I don't have separate ones for my coaching or anything. So when I kind of made that switch from like just posting my fun life and my personal life over to business coaching, I was a little bit worried, but I wasn't going to let those opinions stop me from reaching what I know I want to reach, you know? Like they're going to think about you for 2 seconds when they watch your video and then they're going to forget about you. As
Yeah,
I'm not going to let that 2 seconds of their judgment ruin me reaching my potential, you know?
exactly. And
Yeah.
or your money or
Or my money or my bank account. Yeah.
right. I think that's really what people are letting other people hold them back
Yeah,
from. And
I know.
I don't think like I think when people start businesses, like a lot of my first reels were definitely cringy for sure.
Me
But
too.
if I didn't post those cringy things, I couldn't post what I have now, or I wouldn't have the clients I have now. I
Yeah.
just recorded a podcast episode right before this that will definitely be up by the time this is live of what you're doing while no one is watching is
Mm,
so important. And a
I
lot of
love
people stop what they're doing because they don't think anyone is watching. But it's really those small steps along the
that.
way that lead to that big result.
Yes. That's
And
so true.
yeah, and that just really made me think of, you literally bought the coffee shop that you worked at when you were 15. That's crazy. And also in a crazy good, not
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
but I
definitely.
love that because that what you did when you were 15, you probably never thought you would own a coffee shop.
No way, not that one.
Right.
Especially not that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything you can look backwards and really connect the dots, especially like I feel like in business, like I learned print on demand and now I can use it in this business
Mhm.
too. Or like my social media marketing, I can use that across any business that I start. So
Exactly.
everything really like connects.
Yeah. And you
Mhm.
can also help other people with
Yep.
theirs. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just started posting more about like coaching, consulting and stuff for young entrepreneurs, and I'm building a community right now to help other people feel supported and feel just really like they have a space, like a safe space to come to. If like your friends and your family don't understand what you're doing, like you have that community to be in. So we're starting that on TikTok soon, and there is going to be like a free version too. So
Mm,
anybody that wants to join that, yeah.
amazing. And you
Yeah.
do coaching as well, right? And
Mhm.
so who do you normally help and what are the most common problems that you see your clients coming to you with?
So typically, I help new entrepreneurs who are just in those beginning stages. I actually met with multiple new entrepreneurs this week, and the main thing that I've been seeing, like across the board, is people don't set specific goals or an action plan to reach those goals. So they'll have like a very vague number or milestone that they want to reach in their business, but they don't have like an action plan to get there. So taking those like steps to actually build out an action plan is what I help a lot of people with, the strategy behind the goals.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what are some of the steps for listeners? Like, what does that look like? Because I'm sure, when I started my business, I didn't have goals for a long time. I hate to
Yeah,
admit that, but,
definitely.
it's like I didn't know where my business would go, and I'm sure a lot of
Yeah,
people are like that too.
I think so too. And it's so important to have goals because otherwise I feel like you lose that motivation. You're like, why am I doing
Mhm.
all this hard work if I don't even know what I'm trying to reach?
Yeah.
So I would really start with defining your why. So figure out, what do you want this business to be for you? Do you want it to just make you a few extra $100? Do you want to replace your 9 to 5? Do you want more free time? Define your why and be super specific about that. And then you can build your goals off of that why.
Yeah, I
Mm.
love that.
Yeah.
And a lot of, you're multi-passionate. You have various different parts of your business. How do you keep your goals in mind for all these different areas that you're
Mm.
working in?
I do quarterly goals and I have them broken up with each business. And then I also have like my personal goals too. So I have a Google page that's printed out. It's on my wall in my office. And I have goals for Unity, for my coaching, for my social media, and then also like my personal goals too.
Okay, and how often do you come back and look at them?
I make sure I have to look at it every day because it's on
Oh,
my
yeah.
wall.
I love
Yeah.
that, I love that.
Because otherwise I'll just write it and then I'll forget about it.
Yeah. No, and I think that's very, very common too,
I
so
think
that's
so
really
too.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think it's common, but I like how it is on your wall so you can see everything. I used to put sticky notes, I mean, I still do with, like, things to keep in mind
Yeah.
or, things I want to accomplish, and I like ripping it up once it's done.
I love
But
that. Whatever works for you, but I think if it's in front of your face every single day and you're really aware of it, you're more likely to obtain the goals.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you have in mind for the next, 6 months of the year or
Mhm.
even longer? I mean, you've accomplished so much. You open your second coffee shop. You mentioned that you have a community starting
Mhm.
pretty soon. Like, what are your
Mhm.
goals for that, and what do you see coming in the next few months?
Definitely. I am in the process of removing myself from my business so that I won't actually have to physically be at my stands anymore. So, getting the systems, getting the team all trained for that, and then really focusing on building that community and building that coaching up for other entrepreneurs. That's really what fulfills me and like warms my heart, is to help other people. So, that's what I want
Mhm.
to really focus on within the next few months.
Very cool. Okay,
Yeah.
removing yourself from your coffee shop business, that is so amazing, and I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people do want to be one day where, they have the systems and the processes, but that also comes with a lot of trust, I imagine.
Yes, it does. And you have to make sure that you have the right people in place, because I've definitely hired the wrong people, and one bad egg can really spoil your whole team. So I found that out, but that was such a good learning experience and I can take that now and apply it. But I mean, I have an amazing team. I'm so thankful for them.
Yeah. How big is your team?
I have 8 employees, and then I also delegate a lot of other things. So I have a creative director, an editor, and then a accountant and bookkeeper.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so
What have
that takes a
you
lot off of my hands.
Oh, for sure. What have you learned about managing teams and yourself?
Yeah. I've learned that every single person learns differently, and you have to adjust communication, you have to adjust training based on each individual, and just be really mindful about how you're speaking to somebody or how you're organizing or just everything. Really, everybody's different. And so you can't treat every single person like they're the same.
Yeah, and then also creating probably SOPs and
Yeah.
KPIs for people,
Yeah.
like goals for them to reach, because if you aren't going to be at the coffee stand every day, I
Yep.
got coffee. I live in I went to this coffee shop in Fremont and the lady was trying to put whipped cream on a drink and it ran out and she she yelled fuck whatever the coworker's name was and she was alone and she was so mad and she was like so
Oh,
grumpy and I
oh
felt so bad
no.
for her. I gave her a big tip. I was like, "Girl, I
Not
hope
the
your day
whipped
gets
cream.
better." But it's things like that that probably are small oversights that if you're not there,
Yeah.
aren't going to work. And so,
Right.
how do you set that all up? I mean,
So I have a manager in place and she really shares those same values and like sees the culture the same way that I see the culture. And so, I mean, I trust her with my business 1,000%. And it's just having those good people in the right places. But that doesn't start from day one. Like, you have to be really immersed into your business. And that's why I've been working so hard at building that culture in the beginning. So now when I do take a step back, I know that culture will still be there because I have such good people in place.
mm, I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. And you have the experience already too, where you used to work there years ago and kind of know what you liked and didn't like. Is that
Yeah.
something that you recommend, even if it's not like an in-person business that someone's running? Do you recommend they learn what they're trying to outsource beforehand, or can you just trust and hire, and what's your thought process on that?
Yeah, I would say yes and no. For some things, I think it's important. For me, I am going to outsource anything that's going to take me like hours and hours of my time. I don't want to do accounting or deal with the IRS. So I'm going to delegate all of that to my accountants. I don't need to learn that. Like that's not I know my books, but I don't need to learn all of the ins and outs of accounting. So I think having a surface level knowledge of anything in your business is really important. So knowing what your books look like, knowing what your profit is, knowing your marketing, knowing your strategies, but I don't think much deeper than that is necessary for every
Do
aspect.
you have a business coach?
I do. I do have a business coach. And yeah, so I work with her one on one. We do like monthly meetings. And then I'm also a part of like a few different networking events too. So,
Yeah. And is that where normally where you find your clients, or is it mainly from TikTok and
yep, from TikTok on my online presence.
Oh, okay, cool. So what systems do you have in place when someone finds you on TikTok and wants to work with you?
Yeah. So I have a stand store set up and my Calendly is linked directly on there. So like my calendar, they can go and they can book a spot with me, whether it's an hour or I do 15-minute free strategy calls for new business owners. So that's all on my stand store. They can just go and book it through there.
Do you have any pre-qualifying questions you ask them? Because
Yeah.
yeah, I want to hear about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So my stand store is linked to my type form. And then after they fill out the type form, they can apply for coaching too. But
Okay.
there's a lot of different like questions that they answer to be prepped.
Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
love that
So
because
that way I know where that they're at in their business too, or like what they need help with. If it's even something that I can help with, I'm not going to try to help every business owner.
okay. And
Yeah.
that really comes down to knowing yourself and what you really can offer. So when you were starting this coaching program, and even when you're thinking of your community that you're building, what qualifiers do you have in mind, or how do you know what you can offer
Hmm.
within your abilities, and people come to us all the time for different things, so how do you say
Yeah.
yes and no? How do you know when to say yes and no?
If it's something that I really feel comfortable teaching them, I will
Mhm.
say yes. But if it's something that I don't know the answer to, or if I don't have experience in that field, I will delegate that to somebody else. I'm
Mhm.
not going to pretend like I know everything and I know every business, but I will be honest with them. Like I'll tell them, hey, I don't know this, but I can tell you to so and so and refer you to over here, and they'll help you with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's it's so hard because it's like we wanna say yes,
Yeah, I
but
know.
or, like, you learn a bunch of things and you can
Yeah,
totally teach yourself what they need to learn, but
right.
going to an expert is always the best option, so
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
I love that, and do you attract a lot of people who are also multi-passionate?
I do. I do. I feel like my page right now on TikTok is a lot of different business owners. It's kind of all over the place, which I love.
Mhm.
It's super unique. I definitely have a lot of new entrepreneurs, but I also have a lot of really established ones as well. And so I really like that range. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, because there's business owners for different industries, right? So there's
Yeah.
ones for like, I have a business coach right now who is all about marketing and sales,
Mm-hmm.
and she really stays in her lane on that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, like, what she does is great. And then
Mm-hmm.
working with a multi-passionate business owner like you
Mm-hmm.
is a whole different thing that I think is also so amazing because if you're working one-on-one with a client and they have an idea about this, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs have so many different ideas. We have so many
Mm-hmm.
different things that we want to create.
Yeah.
And I think, working with someone like you who has all these different things, you can help them prioritize what to do now. It
Yep.
doesn't make sense. Instead of, maybe a more classic business coach who's like, stick to what you know.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to go about either one of those. Some
Yeah.
people are going to say you could take on multiple things at once, and some people are going to say just stick to one. But I think it's whatever feels right to you, and you'll know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I've loved everything we've talked about so many different things so far, but all about business and like all the different parts of business that you have. I'd love
Mhm.
to know words of advice you want to give to someone who's maybe where you were a couple years. Because when did you start all of your businesses? How old were you?
Well, like officially, a full time entrepreneur when I like left my job and quit. I
Mhm.
was 23.
Okay. That's also when I started
Okay.
business
Yeah.
too. And,
Yeah.
for anyone who's in that space where you were when you were
Yeah.
23 and kind of trying to figure it all out,
Yeah.
did you ever like doubt yourself because you had so many passions and ideas?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us more
Absolutely.
about that because I think that's also really common.
Doubt in like which route to go? Is that kind of what you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, or just
Mhm.
like I have all these different things I want to do.
Yeah.
You know how people say like a jack of all trades is like a what is that phrase? A jack of
Trade
all
for
trades
none,
is
I
a
think it is. Trade for none?
something like that, yeah, expert of you know what I mean? So,
Expert of none, that's what it
yeah,
is.
tell
Yeah.
us more about that.
I would say in the beginning, I know I have all of these things going on right now, but in the beginning, I really did just focus on one thing at a time.
Mm,
So when I was doing my Etsy, I only focused on my Etsy. And that was like, I treated it like a full time job. I had like my systems, my goals, like what I was going to work on each day. And I put 100% into that business until it could sustain itself. And then I moved on to the next thing. I didn't like start my Etsy and then start my coffee shop all at the same time and like try to juggle all these new businesses.
yeah, I think that's super important to point out
Yeah.
too because you can definitely burn yourself out and overwhelm yourself if you
Yeah,
try to do
you
everything
can.
at once.
Yes, yes, you can. And I've wanted to start like coaching and consulting for so long, but I know while I'm working in my shops 5, 6 days a week, I
Mhm.
can't also pour into other people. So it's like, wait, I know that will come, but I need to like delegate first, and then I'll be able
Yeah.
to help other people.
Yeah, and at what point do you feel comfortable to kinda let the businesses run on their own?
When you have the systems and the right people in places, for me, it's like when I can take a few days off and there's no fires and nothing goes wrong. That's when I know I'm like, okay, this is probably okay.
Yeah, no, that's so funny, that's so true though, like,
Well, I can take a day off. Okay, it's probably good.
yeah, if you're like, "If n my phone doesn't blow up with my
Yep,
employees texting
yep,
me," you
they're good.
know, then everything is fine. I love
Yep,
that, that's really, really a great way to think of it, like, can I take a week off and not think about
yeah,
work every day?
exactly.
Yeah.
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 Otherwise, you work for your business, like
Mhm.
you're never going to have any free time if you don't set up those systems.
Totally, totally. Because most of us start our businesses for time freedom,
Yeah.
and then we end up just being hardworking employees for our
Yeah.
own business.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
It's hard. It's definitely hard. I mean, even like I am a solopreneur, and so when I want to take time off, I have to work ahead, but I do feel confident in like my boundaries with my clients of don't text me while I'm gone, like everything is scheduled and set to go. We just have to
Just trust
trust.
me. It's
Yes,
done.
exactly. No, I
Yeah.
love that. And I love how you really did specify how you start one thing, become an expert, do all the research, master
Mhm.
that before you move on. So that's really, really great advice. And is there anything else you want to share before we get into your action steps for this week?
I don't think so. We covered so much.
Yeah, we did. I love this
Yeah.
conversation.
Me too.
So, Ellie, this is how I start to wrap up every episode is asking the guests to share 3 action steps based on this conversation. So, since we did cover so many different topics, I
Mhm.
want to make sure that the people listening get value and take action based on what they just learned. So,
Mhm.
what are the 3 action steps you would love them to complete this week?
Okay, first thing is figure out your goals. Set those goals, be super, super specific, base them on your whys. Set 3 goals for the next quarter
Mhm.
and print them out, hang them up so that you see them every day, that you're forced to see them. Put them in your bathroom mirror so that you have to read them every day. The next thing is to get into rooms with other people who inspire you and support you. And then the next one would be to take action. Don't learn every single day, and just take action towards those goals, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that will say they want to do something and they'll just keep learning and learning and learning for years, but they'll never take any actual action towards those goals. So even
Mhm.
if it's just a baby step today, even if it's just building those goals out or researching who you need to hire, just something that's actionable instead of learning every day.
Yeah, I love that. I think that a lot of people have courses in their inbox and freebies.
Yeah,
It
I
just
know
seems
I do.
flowing.
So
Yeah,
many things.
right. And then
Yeah,
just like if you don't take the action, nothing will change, and then you'll
yeah.
just get more freebies and more.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
a
I think it's
never-ending
like
cycle.
that dopamine hit that it makes you feel like you're doing something, but you're not actually taking any action.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
so take that action. Take that
Yeah,
action. And Ellie can definitely help you. So how can the listeners connect with you?
definitely. So the best way to connect with me is on Instagram. I'm most active on there. It is my first name, so Ellie dot my last name, which is Hugdall. And you can shoot me a DM, follow me on there. I'd love to connect and help any new business owners or entrepreneurs that are just getting started.
Perfect. So I'll put
Yeah.
that link in the show notes. You also have your TikTok and your Unity Coffee pages
Yes.
if anyone
Yes.
wants to go see what kind of marketing you do on there. And just, I mean, every time you post coffee, I'm like, I need that. And I wish I lived closer to come
I
and get
know.
coffee every single day.
I know.
But it's just like the combinations you make are so unique. Like it just looks so good. I need to come try it.
Fun. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. This was great. And yeah, all the links will be in the show notes. So I hope anyone who's also multi passionate and wanting to achieve all the goals that they set come and chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.